Today on A Woman's World, we celebrate the great feats of some amazing African women. Welcome, I am Oyinlola Sally. The women you will be learning about are women who have made a difference in their communities, their countries, and have contributed to Africa's development. On Life on Top, we will meet a shoemaker who has turned her small beginnings into a global presence. We will also bring you up to date with the latest headlines in the world of women. And on Trends, we explore the rise in popular taste for African fabrics. It's certainly going to be an exciting show, so don't go anywhere. On to our issue for the day. Let's see some amazing African women.
Africa prides itself with women who have achieved notable feats. These women, in their own way, have been contributing factors to Africa's development in various sectors, be it in music, politics, literature, peace, etc.
And when I began to write at about the age of 7.
Look at Flora Wangwa. She is Nigeria's first female novelist and the first female novelist in the English language in all of Black Africa to be published internationally. Justifiably referred to as the mother of modern African literature, her incredibly sublime skills of writing launched her to global fame. Her novel, Efuru, was published in 1966 by Heinemann Educational Books Limited. She did not stop at that. She also became the very first woman in Africa to publish novels all by herself when she established Turner Press. In her own words, "I write because I want to write. I write because I have a story to tell. There is this urge always to write and put things down. I do not presume that I have a mission. If you continue to read my books, maybe you could find a mission. But I continue to write because I feel fulfilled. I feel satisfied in what I'm doing." Through her writings, she brought to light the tensions between tradition and the modernity in marriage and family practices, and the manner in which women's voices and choices are often subdued by male biases. In music, we look at Mariam Makeba, popularly referred to as Mama Africa. South African singer and human rights campaigner, Makeba was the first vocalist to put African music onto the international map in the 1960s. Makeba is well known throughout the world as Mama Africa and the Empress of African Song. She was the first black woman to have a top 10 worldwide hit with Pata Pata in 1967. Through the years, both Miriam's personal and professional life were tumultuous, with a highly public commitment to and continuous fight for racial equality. Miriam was a peace and freedom fighter that relentlessly gave voice to millions of people against the evils of all racism. Her exceptional personal and artistic profile is part of the history of this century, all making Mariam Makeba legend.
Bata is the name of a dancer. We do down to Johannesburg way. Everybody starts to dance.
For her laudable efforts as a peace ambassador, we look at Kenyan Wangari Maathai. Wangari Maathai was internationally recognized for her persistent struggle for democracy, human rights, and environmental conservation. She addressed the UN on several occasions and spoken on behalf of women at special sessions of the General Assembly for the 5-year review of the Earth Summit. She was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004 for her actions to promote sustainable development, democracy, and peace, and was the first African woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. She was the first woman in East and Central Africa to earn a doctorate degree. In her words, African women in general need to know that it is okay for them to be the way they are, to see the way they are as a strength, and to be liberated from fear and silence. African women have also excelled in politics. Notable among them is President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia. She is the first elected female head of state in Africa. She is currently serving her second term as president after winning the 2011 presidential election.
Used more widely.
President Sirleaf throughout her career has demonstrated passionate commitment to hard work, integrity and good governance, advocating for the rights of women and the importance of education to provide a better future for her country and its people. She shared the 2011 Nobel Peace Prize with Leymah Gbowee and Tawakkol Karman for their non-violent struggle for the safety of women and for women's rights to full participation in peace-building work. These women have taken various initiatives to overcome the constraints limiting the effective participation of women in Africa's development process. Just a few African women who have made an impact in the continent have been mentioned, but the list goes on.
A thorough list, but definitely not exhaustive. As the number of these women exceed the time we have per show, we will be making our time over the next few weeks to bring you more achievements of African women. Coming up, we meet an entrepreneur on Life on Top, and on Trends, it's all about African fabrics. But first, let's see what events made the headlines in this past week.
The battle on who should own the Nelson Mandela brand has intensified as two of the former South African president's daughters sue their father for the rights of his artworks and control of his millions. Zenani and Makaziwe Mandela intend to fight an April 2004 Johannesburg High Court order which gave Mandela the right to instruct Ismail Ayob, his then lawyer, to stop managing his financial, personal and legal affairs. The court order barred Ayob from selling any of Mandela's artworks. The story headlines have upset many Johannesburg residents who have called the court action selfish and motivated by greed.
Maybe the fact that Mandela spent a long time in jail, he was not there to play the role of a father. Maybe that explains a lot in terms of the kind of family environment in which these children have grown up. What they are doing is certainly distasteful to Africans, and I'm sure it is distasteful to the rest of the world.
I think it's greed and selfishness. They're playing on their granddad's history and reputation, and they're trying to win a quick buck.
I think let him do whatever with his money. It's his money end of the day.
Nelson Mandela has been admitted to hospital 3 times in 4 months for different medical reasons. The Nobel Peace Prize laureate, who became South Africa's first black president in 1994, is a global symbol of tolerance and the struggle for equality. Mandela stepped down as president in 1999 and has not been politically active for a decade. Argentine women fitted with substandard breast implants sold by a French company recently protested outside the courthouse in the country's capital, demanding free replacement of breast implants and compensation. The protest comes as the makers of the controversial implants are on trial in France. Holy Implant Process founder and longtime chief executive Jean-Claude Mars has admitted filling the implants with an unapproved homemade recipe made of industrial-grade silicone gel. Circulating a petition to pressure French court officials, Argentine victims are demanding financial compensation so that they can have their implants removed for free. Unlike some governments, Argentina has not offered to pay for surgery to remove the implants, and the French company that sold them has gone bankrupt, leaving the victims who gathered here with few options. The 2010 cancer death of a French woman with implants made by the company had caused a global health scare, and an estimated 400,000 PIP implants were sold worldwide before the company went bankrupt. Health authorities in France and elsewhere have stressed that PIP's products carry no proven link to cancer, but surgeons report that they have abnormally high rupture rates. About 600 Afghan women and girls are behind bars for moral crimes. Human Rights Watch said that was the highest number since the Taliban was toppled almost 12 years ago. Running away from home, usually from abuse or forced marriage, and alleged adultery, which often involves rape, have landed most of the 600 women in prison.
What we have discovered through new research is that over the last 18 months, the number of women and girls who are imprisoned in Afghanistan on these quote-unquote moral crime charges has increased by 50%.
The findings come days after Parliament failed to ratify an elimination of violence against women law, which would have strengthened a 2009 presidential decree banning forced and underage marriage, beatings, and rape. Heather Barr, an Afghanistan researcher for Human Rights Watch, said if the abuse of girls and women continued, countries that help Afghanistan now might no longer be willing to help.
The discussion in the Parliament didn't change the validity of the EVA law. In terms of if the Parliament were to, in the future, reverse this law, that would have very, very serious consequences for Afghanistan.
While Human Rights Watch said it was difficult to pinpoint the reason for the increase in the imprisonment of women for moral crimes, Barr said incarceration of both men and women had risen across the country in recent years. "25-year-old Raha Muharrak has become the first Saudi woman to climb Mount Everest and the youngest Arab to make it to the top of the world's highest mountain. She was part of a 4-person expedition that included the first Qatari man and the first Palestinian man attempting to reach the summit. Despite being one of the wealthiest countries on earth, Saudi Arabia continues to be among the most conservative and restrictive when it comes to women's rights and freedom. Everest can be climbed from either Nepal or Tibet.